Good afternoon, all of you. President of the Company of Master Managers Sri Lanka, President-elect and the General Secretary of the OPA, all erudite speakers, moderator, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to participate in this very timely webinar on the Express Pearl disaster organized by the Company of Master Managers Sri Lanka jointly with the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka. Company of Master Managers Sri Lanka is a very long-standing member association of the OPA, counting well over 17 years since of existence, since the inception of the OPA, that was in 1975. I very warmly welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, as the president of the OPA, on behalf of the OPA. The presentations that are lined up today in this webinar would cover all aspects relating to the Express Pearl ship disaster, and I am sure it will provide answers to many of the questions that you have in your mind about this unfortunate incident. Thank you very much. Over to Captain Mahinda Ranatunga for his introductory remarks. Captain Mahinda Ranatunga is the current president of the Company of Master Managers Sri Lanka. Over to Captain Ranatunga.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Company of Master Mariners, I would like to thank the OPA for organizing this webinar. Company of Master Mariners consists of ship captains employed in both local and foreign ships and some in shore-based shipping industry, both in government organizations and private sector. In the backdrop of Express Pearl incident, and so many versions with inaccuracies are being circulated widely, we as a professional organization thought that we need to express our unbiased professional view on this matter. Being a professional organization who is directly involved in shipping, we thought we need to educate the public how the shipping industry operates and is regulated. Also taking Express Pearl as a case study and from the lessons learned from both recent incidents, MT New Diamond and Express Pearl, we would like to highlight the areas that needs immediate attention and action to enhance the reputation of the country as a capable maritime nation. Hope this webinar will be a meaningful and a fruitful one for everyone. Thank you. Over to you, Arjuna.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all of you. I'm Arjuna Manamperi, one of the vice presidents of OPA and the chairman of the National Issues Committee. I'll be your moderator today. Now the time is 4:05. I will take over the moderation part and the question and answer session until about 5:55 or 5:50. We have a strong hard stop at 6 p.m. As a result of that, we'll have to stick to the timelines. So therefore, please bear with us. All of you have been unmuted. Your cams are muted, your mics are muted, because we do not want any disturbances to the presenters. There are 5 presenters. After the 5 presenters, there should be about 20 to 15 minutes of time left for a Q&A session. So bear with us, stay with us. You will be enlightened as the presidents mentioned, both presidents mentioned, and you will be knowledgeable. So your questions will be very pointed when you ask them. Your chat box had been locked out. It will be opened up when the Q&A session starts. I see some slowness in the video clips. Are you hearing me well and the videos is coming out right?
Can see you well.
Can I get a feedback from the Vladi?
Yes, sir. We can.
Right, okay, thank you very much, because I see some slowness. Dulanti, I can't hear you. Is the video clear to you?
Yes, I can.
Dulanti, is the video clear to you?
Yes, sir. We can hear
Move
you.
slowly. Move
Okay,
slowly.
please speak up louder. I heard you now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, our first case for Express Pearl ship, which is now a sunken ship in the Sri Lankan waters. It should be salvaged sometime. In my personal life, I have seen ships being burned or bombed, and that's all in movies. I don't think how many of you have seen ships being bombed live, unless you are a World War II veteran. So this is one of the first experience I've ever had in my life. Now, there had been many TV sessions every night on TV. At least 3 or 4 channels carry this particular topic. Webinars have been held. I have listened to many of them, and I think almost all of them either speculate or comes up with a conspiracy theory or focus on one area. When OPA decided to do this very properly, they have arranged just like a ship would sail, a cargo ship would sail. A cargo ship, when it sails with the cargo on top of it, on the deck, there's a group of people in charge of those top deck, in charge of the deck. They are called the officers of the ship. So we have a master marine and officer, chief officer, as our one of our presenters first. Then second person who will going to present to us is a chartered marine engineer, seafarer for 20 some years. And he will be a chief engineer. That means the person who manages the ship, all the propelling part is managed by the chief engineers. Now the chief engineer and the chief officer, the man in charge of the deck and the man in charge of the propelling of the ship, they report to what we loosely call the captain, but the real word is master. Master of the ship, the captain of the ship. So we have a captain of the ship, one of the master mariners, long-time seafarer, as to give us a case study on this particular ship, what really happened here. Now what has happened has happened. Every day we see turtles being dead, worries about contamination of the beach, long-term economic boost of the tourism industry and so on and so forth. And people are now talking about compensation. So after the case study, there comes the litigation part, insurance claims and etc. But long-term claims. So we have 2 lawyers after the case study being presented. One is a maritime lawyer, very famous. In fact, he has become a household name or a voice in the country now, because every night I see him, most of the nights. And then there's another lawyer, attorney at law, who will talk about the environmental laws and needs for that. So with this background, each presenter will get 15 minutes, not 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I want every presenter to know by the when they are up to the 14th minute, I will tell them that your time is up in 1 minute. And I will give 20 minutes to the case study presenter. That is our master mariner captain, the third speaker. If you do it this way, we will have about 20 minutes left for Q&A session. So help me out. Let's sail the ship nicely, not like the disaster that we had, and have a good session. If you listen carefully to these presenters with whom I have had discussions, I have been enlightened by them, and I think it will be good. So your questions will be very pointed. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the first presenter. As I mentioned you, he's a person who has been in charge of the deck of a ship, all the goods and other exchanges they do with incoming ports and outgoing ports. He's a national diploma he has done national diploma in technology from University of Moratuwa. He's the Master Mariner Class 1 from Sri Lanka. He has a master's in business administration from UK. This topic being maritime management. He has sailed for 20 some years, at least 2 decades. He has sailed for a Singaporean company, and he has trained crews handling on board and shipping related activities. He's currently a lecturer in a maritime college in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Captain Sampath Hemasinga. Sampath, it's your turn now. You got 15 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me well.
Yes, we hear you very well.
Yeah, okay.
See you well as well.
I start with sharing my small presentation. Okay, I hope you can all see the screen now.
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, okay. My topic
Very
here
clear.
is carriage of dangerous goods on board a ship. So, when in this session, I am going to cover up ships, master and crew, the cargo, role of the shipper and documentation, and description of IMDG code as per the safety of life at sea, chapter 7. Then the responsibilities of the master, prior loading the cargo, during the carriage, and also in case of incident, what is the obligation of reporting. Then touch upon the port arrival departure declarations. So, as you know, you have been seen ships. So ship means, in definition, vessel includes every description of watercraft, including non-displacement craft, wig craft, and seaplanes, used or capable of being used as a means of transportation on water. What does it mean? Transportation of water on water, which 90% of the cargo transported between countries is done by ships. So it's huge. 90% of the total volume is transported by ships. So there are various ships. I am not going to explain. So then you have a ship. We have a staff to run the ship. As further to Mr. Arjuna explained, that captain is there. There are two departments, engine room and deck departments. Engine room will be taken care of propulsion and power of the vessel, the ship. The deck department will be taken care of the cargo and navigation. The overall in charge or the responsible person will be chief officer. So when come to deck department, cargo work is handled by chief officer in consultation with the master or the captain. So we move on to the next topic. The ship is there, the staff is there. Now who governs? Yes, it governs by regulated by the IMO conventions, or International Maritime Organization has adopted several conventions. It is actually over 35 odd conventions are there. I mentioned here for you major conventions, which is International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea, which came into force 1974. Then the second one, important, International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973. Then International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification and Watchkeeping for Seafarers, 1995, amended 2010. Now the SOLA, Safety of Life at Sea, take care about the safety aspect at sea, their staff, the vessel, the cargo. MAPOL is for the pollution prevention, and the staff is trained, certified, and issued with certificate for operate the ships. So now when you have a ship, you have a staff, then you should have a cargo to carry. The main purpose of the cargo vessel is to carry cargo. So how we carry cargo normally? There is a central planner in liner shipping, especially in containerized. The central planner gets the documents from the export declaration from the shipper, where he will get from the cargo owners, which will be transported to the depot and then the loading port. There are other authorities involved, custom and banks and etc. Then it will be carried by ship to the discharging port, to the consignment. So where we get the cargo. So now shipper, who is the one provide the cargo to the ship owner or the freight forwarder to load on board the ship, has some responsibilities. So as per Safety of Life at Sea, Chapter 7, Regulation 4.2, the transport document prepared by shipper shall include or be accompanied by a signed certificate or a declaration that consignment offered for carriage is properly packed, marked, labeled, or placarded. So it's very big responsibility, because on board the ship, we don't know what is the cargo, especially in the container ships. So when the central planner has sent us the plan, the ship staff, the chief officer, the guidance of the master will check the plan. Then he will give the conditions to load. Okay, there he checked all the documentation part is completed. Now, what does when the cargo is a hazardous cargo? Yes, more particular, we all don't want to keep a hazard or hazardous cargo. So there was a code adopted in 1965, very long ago, and it was just recommended. But in 2002, it was made mandatory from 1st January 2004 under SOLAS convention. So now what happened? Any cargo being transported on board a ship has to be comply with the regulations of the IMDG code, which are hazardous. Now, when we go to inside the Safety of Life at Sea, Chapter 7, it gives 6 regulations. It says what is the dangerous cargo in package form. That means in boxes, in cartons, and then where it applies to all the ships with the SOLAS convention applies. Then requirement of dangerous cargo. It give a code. The code will say all the dangerous cargo which can be carried on board the ship. Then it will give the documents. Then how it's going to secure on board the ship as per the cargo securing manual. Then in case of any incident involving dangerous good, how it should be reported. not only in the SOLAS. It's very clearly mentioned in the MARPOL Annex 3, if the harmful substances carried by sea in package form are prohibited to carry if the ship, except in accordance with the provisions of the MARPOL Annex 3. That means it has incorporated in the IMDG code the requirement of the MARPOL Annex 3. So now we have ship, we have staff, we have dangerous cargo. Then we are going to see what is this dangerous cargo. The dangerous cargo, the United Nations has categorized as per their properties of hazards, which have 9 classes: explosives, gases, liquids, solids, then oxidizers and organ peroxides, toxics, radioactive cargoes, corrosives, and miscellaneous other cargo which is not coming to these groups. Now someone can say this cargo is hazardous than the other. No. As per the International Maritime Dangerous Goods Cargo, all cargo has to be treated as DG cargo, which is dangerous cargo, and comply with all the requirements to carry.
Captain
Then-
Sampath, you have another 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, then we have a declaration received, IMO declaration dangerous good, which is carefully explain all these properties, shipping name, class, hazards, and etc., which we have to receive and we have to check on the ship. Then when it coming to the loading port, the master has so much of responsibility. Check as per the document of compliance, which is the document we have to carry the dangerous cargo. Then the container we have to check whether there is a leakage, damage, or placards are properly mentioned. Then we have to plan it in the correct storage location as per the plan. Then we have to follow all the segregation separation requirements in the IMDG code. During the carriage, we have to check lashings, check for any abnormal signs of the containers, then report any incident to nearest coastal state. This is very clearly mentioned in SOLAS chapter 7. Without delay, the master has to report to the nearest coastal state. Then we come to the discharge port and we will discharge the cargo. Then when we come to a port, we have several documents to be handed over. List of crew list of crew effects, vaccination list, health declaration, ship store declaration, currency declaration, storage plan, cargo declaration, last 10 port of call, last port clearance, and all other statutory and trading certificate has to be ready. So taking overall, it is very systematic process. The cargo is proceeded to the ship, carried on board, and discharged at the port. So I want to emphasize here, when dangerous cargo is carried on board the ship, everyone from shipper, the owners, planners, master, receiver, everyone has equal responsibility to carriage of safe, environmental friendly, pollution free cargo to the consignee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sampath. Thank you very much for that precise presentation. I also would like to add a statement like this. That is to say that not only that they have the responsibility, everybody involved, multi-stakeholders, but also the everybody knows what's in there in a container. With that summary statement from the man in charge of a deck, Chief Officer. We go to the next one. Next presenter will be the other side of the ownership of the responsibilities of a ship. That would be the chief engineer of a ship. The next presenter has been a chief engineer in the past. He has 32 years of experiences in the marine field. He's a chartered marine engineer and a fellow member of the Institute of Marine Engineering Science and Technology, UK. He worked as a chief engineer at CISA and Irvine Shipping and later in London until about 2005. Between 2007 and 2007, he joined Lloyd's China as well as Singapore Lloyd's, and he left that job in 2010. After that, since 2010, he has joined DNB Colombo office and is currently a principal surveyor and a country manager of DNB Maritime Country Office in Colombo. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you the next speaker who get 15 minutes, Saman. Mr. Saman. You.
Okay, Arjun, I hope that you are hearing me clearly.
Saman, we can hear you clearly and we can see you very clearly. Excellent.
Okay, I'll share my presentation now. Can you see the presentation or? Hello?
Not yet. It will take a little time. Are you given the privilege to share your screen? If you can share the screen, then it will take a little while and it will come up. Depends on each person's speed, internet speed. Mrs. Julanti, can you please make sure that the engineer someone has the access to the screen sharing, please? Okay, it's going to happen now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, can see some.
Yes.
You can see the screen now, yeah?
Yes, we can see the screen and please go to the, yes, nice.
Okay, thank you, Arjun, for that soft introduction of yours. And hi, everyone. Good evening. And I would like to thank Company of Master Mariners to give me this opportunity. Though I'm not representing the Company of Master Mariners, I'm actually representing the Society of Chief Engineers Marine within the OPA. Now also a life member of the OPA. And anyway, thank you. We are in the same business. So my duty is to give you certain technical aspects of the ship and its operation. Let's begin with the normal ship structure. Of course, I have to stick to the structure of a container ship. Container ships are sort of, if you take for the structure, it's like a floating beam, and that beam has cargo holes, meaning when we cut the holes in the cargo beam, then what you do is, in engineering term, we say we reduce the section modulus of that beam. When you reduce that section modulus, then you need to add and strengthen by frame, plating, stiffness, and girders. So I will show you the general arrangement of a container ship. But I'm sorry, I have to go out of this presentation again to open that one. See, okay, this is, I think you can see this one. Probably this is a bit smaller. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger. Right. Okay, now you will see this is the structure of actually Express Pearl, the one that caught fire and it's sank now on the seabed. You can see the top, these are the container boxes that is stacked on the hatch covers. And then you have the cranes on deck. And underneath we call cargo holds. The ship has about 5 cargo holds, counting from here, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, like that. So this is actually the general arrangement of the ship. You carry containers in the hold, and then you have a lid. We call it a hatch cover. These are pontoon types covers which can be lifted out and placed on the port when you go, ship goes alongside. They lift the shed covers through the gantry cranes and place the hatch cover on the key. And then you open the hole, you can load the cargo in, and then after loading the cargo inside the hole, what you do is you close the hatch top and then load the boxes on top. Mind you, all these structures are strengthened to take the load. Now, basically in engineering terms, if you take a line, draw a line in the midship, which is the center of this length, if you draw another line from here to here, which we call 0.4 L of the ship's length, that means if the ship length is 100 meters, within 40 meters from this midship, this is where maximum bending stresses are encountered by the ship structure. And then on this part, the dominant stresses are the shear stresses, as well as this part, the aft part. So we call, this is the midship area basically, this is aft or stern, and this is the bow area. So if this is actually the exact general arrangement plan of the Express Pearl. Now I want to have for you to look at the plan view of when you are looking from the top. These are the cargo holds, and between cargo holds you have something called cross girder. These are big girders that they will overcome the torsion of the vessel and also withstand the stresses, the bending stresses and the shear stresses of the vessel. So this girders will also serve as a lashing bridge where people can access and check the lashing of the container from the hole inside and to the top. So this is basically it. And what you see here is the deck, below this one is that you see the cargo holds, and then you see a passage along this on the both side. This is actually we normally call this passage, but this is a big torsion girder which actually is made to withstand the torsion forces when the ship sailing in the high seas. Otherwise, since you have big openings inside this beam, the vessel will twist and break into two. So this part of the top section are hugely thickened. If you go on a container vessel of this side, you will see this shell plating is about 30 millimeter thick, and this girder or the torsion box is a very closely spaced thick girder. It's a cross girder, and you can walk in this girder. So we call it normally a passage, and each one has a watertight door. So this compartment is watertight. If you normally when you are sailing at sea, these doors, watertight doors, are kept closed, because otherwise, if you have a breach of hull, you will have flooding from here to here. So therefore, we keep all these watertight doors closed at sea. So generally, this is where I want to explain another special one in this structure. In this vessel, you had fuel tanks here and here. that means this is inboard of the vessel. Around is all ballast water tanks which carry ballast water for to maintain the stability of the vessel. And in between these crosstakes, you have the fuel oil storage tank, and as well as normal usage for the engine. All the other tanks are here. In this type of fire, the temperature would normally rise up to 800 to 1000 degrees because the steel is also on fire, and the fuel inside this tank, I don't think it will survive because the flash point of this fuel, it's somewhere between 60 to 80 degrees Celsius. So I don't think, if anybody is arguing that the fuel is there, I don't think the fuel is there now. It should have been burnt and evaporated. And I believe the fuel in the engine room has also been burnt and evaporated, because in that extensive higher degree of temperature, the 60% 60 degrees flash point fuel will not exist. So this is the general arrangement of the vessel. I cannot go on describing some. Hello.
Engineer, excuse me, you have another 3 minutes, please. 3 to 4 minutes.
Right. So that is the general this thing of the. So I will quickly run through the others. Right. So normally once the ship is built, we issue this type of certificate, ship registry certificate, safe manning certificate, radio license, statutory certificate, load line, document of compliance, certificate of class, civil liability, canal transit, and ship sanitation. These are the statutory certificate we normally issue. And when it comes to carrying dangerous good cargo, what we have is the certificate, this certificate here, document of compliance to carry dangerous good, will contain all these things. Every container ship that is certified to carry DG cargo should have a compliance certificate, and it addresses the fitting, system, fire detection and smoke extinction, cooling, ventilation, bilge pumping, segregation, and stowage of cargo on board. So I don't have time to see this one. I just wanted to tell you, this is MSC Daniela. This caught fire in 2017, and this is much bigger ship. It had 14,000 TEU containers on board, and it caught fire when she was sailing from Far East to Europe. And this is how it looks like. These are the lashing bridge, and these are the hatch covers. And I had the privilege of doing the damage assessment on this one. We managed to douse the fire and brought it into the port and discharged all the containers, and then send the vessel for one single voyage for repair. This is the burnt cargo hold. This is the hatch top. And this is how it looks like inside the hold. And this is what happened when the containers were burned down at that time. And this is the lashing bridge on top. You see, this one should be a continuous structure, but you can see how it is melted down because of the fire. And so this is normally the hatch top, the container stacked on board, and the cargo hold inside, where the container can also be loaded into these ones. And you see these columns, they are called shell guides, where they guide the container once lowered into the cargo hold. And this picture shows how the containers are stacked inside the hold. And these are the firefighting equipment that you will have on a dangerous good carriage ship carrying dangerous good. This hatch top has a cooling connection, and this one has a sprinkler system actually. And this can be connected by a flexible hose when it is needed, and to open the seawater inside the cargo hold for cooling purposes. when you are carrying class 1 cargo. And this is what the ship has for total flooding system. This is CO2. The spaces are continuously monitored and giving signals if there is a fire in the hold or in the engine room or any other place. So the engineers can flood the cargo hold or the space in the fire. I will go to the other last slide because I don't think I have time to. I just wanted to stress on the.
Saman, you have only one more maximum.
Yeah. So I will just show you about the VDR. Everybody is talking about the VDR. VDR is something like that you see on the aircraft, which is called black box. And here, what you have on ship is you have a newly built ship 2 VDR. One is a fixed capsule, and this is a very strong construction. It can withstand up to 1,100, more than 1,100 degrees Celsius, and it is mounted. You can see on the topmost deck of the vessel, and it should be able to record 48 hours of data. And once the 48 hours is gone, it is starting overwriting the data. So every 2 days, it is overwriting new data. And on top of this one, you have a floating VDR, which is like an EPIR, we call emergency indicator position radio beacon. This is released when the ship is sunk. When the ship is under 4 meters of water, this will be released, and then it will give you a signal where the satellite, through the satellite, the rescue team can locate this one. So this is what is meant by the VDR. And VDR also have a unit which is fitted in the wheelhouse, which can carry a recording of 1 month, 720 hours. And these two, the fixed capsule and the floating capsule, will carry only 48 hours of recording time. Actually, these things can be removed from the vessel and then can be decoded and converted into a voice. And then the investigators, normally in this type of incident, the investigation has to be headed by the flag state of the ship. And then since the Express Pearl is port 5 in our waters, then what you have to do is the flag state is the authority, but the supporting role is done by our administration, which is the Director General of Merchant Shipping. So they have to support the investigation. So in actual situation, the investigators use the data from the VDR fixed capsule and the floating capsule. So if you let me, I will just explain the other thing one. Now there is a role of flag state, port state, and coastal state. When a ship is built, it has to be registered under a flag.
Saman, excuse me, Saman. I really want you to take only 1 more minute, please.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll all mess up the whole.
Right. So when a ship is built, you have to register in a country which is also a IMO member state, and this is then for that country will become a flag state for that vessel. And when that vessel is coming to another port, that port or that country will become a port state for that ship. And then you have coastal state, which any country that has a coastal line is a coastal state. Now, if the vessel is passing our territorial waters or our exclusive economic zone, for that ship, Sri Lanka is a coastal state. So these are actually the flag state roles. We have a Shipping Act here, which is empowered. The Director General of Merchant Shipping is empowered by this Merchant Shipping Act. And then their duty is to ratify the IMO conventions, measures to enhance the safety of life at sea, register ships, statutory certification, approving delegation of authority to classification societies, provision of facility for training and certification, cooperate with authorities of flag state in carrying out investigation case of accident, casualty, or pollution. These are the main roles of flag state. Then you have a role of port state. Role of port state and flag state and coastal states are described in IMO ILO convention, and there is something called triple I code, which I don't have time to explain. And
Saman, I think don't rush
Yeah.
through, Saman. Don't rush through things. We can take it up in a Q&A session. So if you rush through, no one will understand it. So let it go. Right? I'll
Okay,
go to the next
right.
presenter.
So
Thank you very much, Saman.
yeah, I think I have come to the end of my presentation.
Yes.
Thank you, Vartun. Thank you.
Unshare your screen, please. Unshare your screen.
Yeah, okay.
Please unshare your screen because otherwise I won't appear. That's why. Yulanti, please bring back me onto the screen. Yulanti, can you bring the spotlight to me, please? Thank you very much. Yulanti, thank you. I can see myself on screen. Ladies and gentlemen, so the first two presenters were one from the top of the deck, other one from the bottom of the deck, that is the engine room and everything else. Everything else about the ship. Let me relate something he said to this particular incident. When the ship sailed from India, Hazira port on the 15th of May, when it came to on the 19th to Colombo port, 9.5 kilometers offshore in a depth of about 21 meters from Colombo port. On the 20th, it reported a smoke from the cargo hold number 2. So that is the back of on the propeller side is number 2, as someone was pointing out. From the cargo hold, there was smoke coming. On the 21st of May, it reported fire on the deck. I just want you to relate to what he presented to the real incident. Ladies and gentlemen, so without taking the thunder from the next presenter, because I have some data that I would have narrated, but with the lack of time, I will introduce you to the next presenter who will do the case study for this incident. Of course, we don't need any introduction to this gentleman. He's definitely a lifelong member of the OPA, very vocal person in the forum. We all know him. He's a master mariner, and he's the chairman and managing director of the Freedom of High Seas Private Limited, local services ships and boats owner and operator. So without any delays or anything like that, let me introduce you to Captain Ranjit Veerasinghe, our own member, forum member, to present the case on this Express Pearl shipping wreck. Ranjit, over to you, sir. You have 20 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Arjuna. Thank you, OPA. Thank you, CMM, Sri Lanka. Though it is a case study, you cannot do a case study in a short period of time, as you would know. But as far as possible, I'll run through quickly from the time this incident started to actually take place. Before doing that, I must say at the outset that when we are discussing an incident, narration of an incident, there may be areas where we may discuss certain events in which certain people are involved, but we are not mentioning or directing we are not mentioning the actual commissions or omissions of these people, but what we can present is exactly what has happened, and from what we have noted from various sources of information that we do have. So therefore, we are trying our level best to give the exact situation, and then to see the areas where there could have been chances of doing something better than what we have done in order to at least save this situation. So without doing much of a introduction as such, I would say I've just noted down few areas. First, the narration of the incident, then our observations, bit of an analysis, and then background causes which we believe, and the recommendations to any authority. So as far as the narration of the incident, let me very quickly go through, because I have been saying this at various places. This was a vessel, brand new vessel in this year, started her operation only in February. 186 meters long, 37,000 ton deadweight capacity, 2,700 container capacity. Brand new, such a nice vessel operated by feeder, Express Feeders Singapore on a round trip from Singapore, Jebel Ali, Hamada Port, Qatar, Hazira, India, Colombo, Sri Lanka, back to Malaysia, Tanjung Pelapas, and Port Klang and Singapore. So that's the normal operation of this vessel. She had been operating it. She had done 2 round trips before this one. This is the 3rd time she came to Colombo. And as the issue here is the leaking container that we have been hearing from various sources. Started with the leaking container that was noticed by the ship's crew on her way from Jebel Ali to Hamada Port in Qatar. So that was on the 10th of May. Then from there onwards, what really has happened, she went to Hamad Port, and the master wanted to get this container removed or repacked, but he couldn't get that done. Then he also wanted to go back to Jebel Ali, get that done, but the owners would have preferred to do it at the next port instead of going back to the same port. So it was decided to go to Hazira, that is in India, Gujarat, and there, of course, again the same story. They for whatever reason, there could be many reasons that we will not discuss, but there could be many reasons that they said they are unable to do it. So then the master had no other options but to sail to the next port of call, that is Colombo. So she came to Colombo on the 19th of May, and as per normal schedule, she came and dropped her anchor of Colombo Port anchorage on the 19th night. That was, in fact, midnight, early morning of 20th in 0030 hours. She had dropped anchor off Colombo, 9.5 miles away. And that's the position of the vessel's voyage up to Colombo. Then, and that felt as a normal operation. And then the next day morning, that is 20th morning, the local agents of this vessel had apparently informed by email to the port that there is a leaking container on board that must be removed. So that was about, it says about 10 o'clock, the ports authority had got this message. And then at the same time, the ship's captain had called on the VHF to the Colombo Port Control and said that there is a leaking container and it must be removed. So now this is just the narration, that is what I've been reported. So that again, a few minutes later, I suppose, the masters again informed the port control that there was a fire inside the cargo hold and that they have managed to contain it. That's okay. Now that the agents had requested for a reworking of this container, the ports authority, in fact, was trying to assess the situation, whether they can get this, bring the vessel into the port and do this operation. As the master had already informed that there was a fire, then they sent this party to inspect the vessel quickly to see whether anything can be done quickly. It has been found out by this inspection party that there has been a fire on board and it has been contained by the ship's crew, and there was no fire further, and that is the position they reported. In fact, they also had noted, though, that the CO2 system had been fully utilized and there was no more CO2 on board. Right. Then I just make a note of that. That was a very important mission that the people from the port did, went and inspect the vessel. Okay, but then that we'll come to that later in our analysis. But then by evening, again about 11:30 night, in the night, the master informed that there's a fire again inside the cargo hold, and that he needed help. So therefore, the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Sri Lanka Navy, and other parties involved send tugs and firefighting tug and another tug to help. So they went and did whatever they could, and in about 2 hours' time, apparently they say that they contained the fire again, and that but still they continued to be around the vessel with these tugs, also boundary cooling and all that other things, but we are not very sure they actually had managed to completely douse the fire inside the cargo hold. Okay, then that's in short how it happened up to that point. By 21st morning, of course, fire had still, that was on the 20th that the tugs went, but by 21st morning too, there was a fire. And then I just give you the events. Then the 22nd, the salvos also came. They brought another tug. There has been an attempt made by them to connect the stern of the vessel by a tug rope to turn the vessel against into the wind, abreast of the wind, so that wind will not the fire will not spread along the length of the vessel from forward to aft. In fact, turn it around so that the wind will push the flames towards one side. So that attempt had been failed, whatsoever the reason. We'll come to that also later. Then we had the that was 22nd, 23rd. Now, weather also during this time was not so good. By 24th, weather became extremely bad as well. So by 24th, of course, there was, even if there was firefighters around, I don't think much could have been done, because by that time the fire has really spread badly. So that on the 25th morning again, there was an explosion in the cargo hold, and a lot of containers fell over the overboard. And then that's the day the crew were evacuated. Not only crew, even some of the salvage party who were on board in place of crew. I think earlier 12 crew members have been removed. In place of that puts 12 salvage team. And then even then had to be evacuated by the 21st after this explosion. Then the after this day, 24th, 25th, you saw on TV footage all the time. Tugs were there around the vessel and throwing water into the flames of the fire. And we also did not see the fire being abated anyway. And then towards the end of the month, the entire cargo load on board the ship, and the ship has been totally destroyed by the fire. So on the second...
Captain Ranasinghe, excuse me.
Yep.
So you will have another about 6 to 7 minutes maximum.
Fine. Okay, right, okay.
Presentation.
All right, thank you very much. And then by 2nd of June, there was an attempt to tow this vessel away from the anchorage to deeper water, but it didn't happen because the ship started sinking. And then that was given up. By that, in the evening, the vessel actually sank, and her stern touched the bottom. And then subsequently, bow also went down, and the ship finally sat on the seabed. So that's the narration of the incident. Very quickly, I'll go through some of the observations. First of all, with the leaking container, the master of the vessel has managed to come not only to the next port to get it done, but 3 further ports without a fire. Even Hamada, Hazira, Colombo, he came without a fire. He only had a leaking container. I'm just making an observation. Second observation, this container, this particular nitric acid container was on deck, and below the deck in the cargo hold, there were a number of other cargoes which, if get mixed up with the nitric acid could have given an explosive, inflammable mixture. That was the other observation. Then we had the okay, I mentioned that on the day the vessel arrived in Colombo, weather was bad, but weather really became bad with the cyclonic condition in the Bay of Bengal only on the 24th of May. So we had the time from 19th night, that means 20th morning, to at least 23rd to do anything, whatever possible if we were to do. Then we had a problem with the this observation of the inspection team's reporting. What did we find when this party went on board? Now, one thing for sure that they noticed, there had been a fire, they have used the CO2 system, but there was no further CO2 on board to smother this cargo hold. So that means there was an imminent danger. In case something happened next, there is nothing that the people on board can do, because what else can you do if you don't have the smothering system of CO2, which, unless you can go into the cargo hold and do something about it. Then we have the another observation, a critical point of decision when the vessel was on fire, and you felt that there is no way that the fire could be doused without actually attacking the seat of the fire. This is where the problem, I think, initially also, when you had the fire in a smaller scale, if you could manage to attack the seat of the fire, it would have been doused. But when fire really inflamed into inferno, there is hardly any possibility of dousing that. And that's why we saw the fire trucks just holding their water cannons to the flames of fire, which is only with the kind of a hope of God's blessing or something that something will happen. That will not happen anyway. Firefighting with water has also filled up the cargo compartments. We know that all the cargo compartments. That's why you saw gradually there was a bodily sinkage of the vessel. And towards the latter part of the operation, they went towards the end of the vessel where the engine room was fully flooded. By I think somewhere around 30th, yeah. When the salvos went on board to inspect, they found that the engine room was fully flooded. Then from the entire account events in chronological order, I think there are numerous questions that to be asked that will come to within short time in the analysis, those questions. And then before we go into that analysis, Arjuna, just give me a bit of time, otherwise I can't do it. I'm trying my best to do this.
Captain,
yeah.
Plan it. How many minutes you want? Because I can give you a maximum.
As you can see, I'm talking as fast as I can. I'm old enough, I can't talk more faster than this. Okay, yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay, and then I would just want you to. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to have an idea of the incident of MSc Daniela Saman Kumar Singh. I was showing you some slides of this thing. I just want to tell you this happened to 120 miles away. Our party went, the Turks and Navy and Sri Lanka Port Authority brought the vessel to Colombo anchorage. For 10 days, they fought the fire in Colombo anchorage. And with still some containers on fire, vessel was brought into the port. And further, while fighting the fire, they discharged the cargo, and they found the cause of the fire inside. Without removing that, you can't really douse the entire fire. So that the actual beginning of the fire was inside. So that without removing the containers, you can't access that. So that's exactly what I'm trying to compare in this situation too. There is one good thing. Somebody took the decision to bring the vessel, fought the fire at the anchorage as much as they can, and when it was felt it is safe enough to bring it to the port and remove the cargo. So I just leave it at that. Don't talk more about it. So that's one. And then immediately on this analysis, I just want to tell you, I am in my own analysis, I have 3 windows of opportunities. First one is the one that master, owner, agent had in their hand. That is, inform the port, Colombo, that we have a leaking container. Please arrange priority basis berthing to get this out. Whether they did that or not is not so far in public domain, because only the Ports Authority said they did not inform us. As far as the owner's side, the agents and the ship is concerned, we have heard nothing, because for whatsoever reason, they have not come out and said that, yes, we informed. But we know from what SLPA informed that they had sent a message to say that there is a leaking container. That was at 10 o'clock on the 20th of May, long after this thing. Otherwise, when this master had the problem of not being able to get the container removed in Hamad or in Hazira, definitely he must insist, the owner, I'm having a problem in hand, please get this vessel into a port and get this container out. So why didn't you do that? That's another issue we have. So immediately, second one is second opportunity. That's the first opportunity. If that was done, we wouldn't have this disaster immediately. Second one is the time that the people went. I would say that after inspection, you have to decide what to do. Either to bring the vessel in or to fight the fire. I believe when they reported back, since nothing really happened until 11:30 in the night when the master informed and said there was a fire, that means they have decided nothing is important. There's nothing to do now. Just wait for the scheduled berthing. But it is not the case. I think if we had some serious inspection of that one, they would have really noticed that the CO2 had been used up completely. If the fire starts again, there is nothing more that nothing else they can use. So therefore, something must be done about it. One, even to bring the vessel in or not. Then if you are thinking of fighting the fire, secondly, that's where I come to now, the what do you fight with? So that's the third option we had, the 11:30 when they informed that there's a fire. Now you go to fight the fire with what? With what do you fight? If the vessel has no further CO2, if there is no access to this one, maybe I think there is, but I'm of the opinion they should have either thought of 3 options I'm giving you. One, replenish the CO2, because if you had, you could have very easily by daytime arrange enough CO2 bottles, fix it back on the installation and open the thing and again contain the fire, at least temporary. That one. Second, if you had a system of foam chemicals in large tanks, not in 20-liter cans like we have on ships, but you must take at least 1,000-liter tanks, few of them put on a tug, take them to the vessel, connect up your firefighting hose through the eductor and remove the and get the foam filled into the compartment, not just splashing outside. Just put the hose into the cargo hold, completely smother the cargo hold with foam. That would have been a second option. Even if you don't have that one, third option also I'm giving you. Flood the compartment with water. And nowadays you will see, someone Kumar Singh would have mentioned that the new vessels are built with flooding arrangements. New container ships have got flooding arrangements. I do not know whether this vessel had, because on the 2019 I've seen in the new vessel building that the flooding arrangement is done, flooding, and the dewatering arrangement is there on cargo hold, which is possible even without any further consideration, because this is a vessel of 37,000 deadweight capacity, capable of carrying 2,700 containers. But at that moment, she was carrying only 486 containers, which works out to about less than maybe about 20,000 deadweight. So you had a balance of about another 70,000 deadweight. If you want to fill up all container holes, you could have done.
Captain Ranjit, please, for the bit of the other presenters, 1 more minute, and we can take
fine. Okay, so as far as now finish the three options. These are the 3 windows. Now we'll come to the point why we are not
doing. Ranjit,
Yeah.
Ranjit, slow
Yeah.
down, please.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yeah.
You have to wrap up in 1 minute, 1 minute, because I have to give chance to the others. We can take it up later in the Q&A. Okay. So finish it in 1 minute, please.
Sorry, I didn't
Finish
get.
it in 1 minute.
Okay, okay.
You have 1 minute more.
Right.
Just finish
All
it.
right, very quickly. So just to wrap up then, there is a background cause for this all three issues. I said first one, we did not get this vessel berth initially. Second one, after inspection also, we have not done much about it. Third one is the firefighting capability. So that what is wrong with this system, that there is, if a vessel comes to the port with a leaking container or anything like that, if the person cannot, if the port's customer cannot report that to the port, there is a reason for that too. Because for an example, if the system is open, friendly, and customer oriented, you should have confidence to tell the port, yes, we have a problem, please help us. So that port should be able to help. Why? I mean, when you have such an issue, if you're not doing it, that means there is something else. The cultural problem is there in the port. If you tell the truth, you will be penalized. So I'm not saying in this case that's the case, but it's a culture in this country. You tell the truth, it becomes very difficult for the people who talk the truth. So that's one issue. Secondly,
kindly Ranjit, seriously, time's running out. Just stick to the points. We will give you a chance in the Q&A session.
Yeah, okay, right. Next is finally all this is the reason for all these reasons is that we do not have a system in place to have from starting from the Merchant Shipping Act, the regulations. This is how we have a emergency response arrangement in this country. There is nothing like that in the country. Therefore, it is left open for anybody to take any decision. So, for an example, even the SLPA has no obligation to go and fight a fire, because they do it just to save a ship or save the environment. But actually, by law, SLP is not responsible. I leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent place to leave. Dulanti, bring me on screen, please. Bring me on to spotlight and unshare the screen of Captain Ranasinghe. I would like to bring to the YouTube the next presenter, our fourth presenter. It's perfect timing, perfect lineup, because when Captain Ranjit left, the final words were that he was talking about legal responsibilities in this country, SLPC or whatever. So the next presenter is a well-known person. I will give a very brief introduction to him because he's well-known. I told him when I first spoke to him a couple of days ago, I said, you are my household friend, because he has been presenting on TVs and social media like almost 3-4 times a day. I have learned a lot from him. So let me introduce you to the next presenter. He's a lawyer, legal consultant, attorney at law. He has a PhD from Hamburg, Germany, former scholar at the International Max Planck Research School of Maritime Affairs. He's a maritime legal specialist for sure. No questions about that. He has been the Dean of the Faculty of Management and Humanities and Social Sciences at SINEC some time back, and later he had the same position in another private university in Sri Lanka. He is the co-founder and the chairman of the Dhanma consulting firm. Already you should figure out who am I talking about. With so many other credentials under his name. Let me introduce you to Dr. Dan Malika Gunasekara. Dan, let me ask you one small favor. I know you are a passionate person who's talking about implementing proper maritime laws in this country. Right now, you are going to tell us where are we weak and what needs to happen. So, but you have, sir, since Captain Ranasinghe took most of your time, you have exactly 10 to 15 minutes. I'll try to give you 15 minutes. Please stick to the points. Thank you very much, Dan. Go for it.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, OPA, and the Master Mariners, Club of Master Mariners, who is organizing this together with OPA. So let me go straight away to my presentation. And I was asked to stick to the points that were given in this presentation. I suppose that I can be heard as well as my screen can be shared as well.
still coming up. We are yet to see it, Dan. Just hang in there. I'll give you feedback when it's up. Is it a big file?
I think so.
Dan, is it a big
Not
file?
really a big file, but only 5 slides or 6 slides rather, but maybe having photographs and so
Thank you.
forth.
Just checking.
Is it coming?
Not yet. Probably your connection speed can't be mine. There it is. It's up. Now it's up. Go ahead.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I'm still getting into the screen. My presentation for today is on the legal aspects of Express Pearl ship incident. Is the prevailing law sufficient or inadequate? So if I go to my presentation, the starting slides, I'm going to address on the prevailing law in Sri Lanka in respect of coastal state control, and we have overheard many things about this. So straight away going to the national implementing legislation, which is the Marine Pollution Prevention Act, that in section 24(1) gives authority, the teeth to the MIPA, where pollution is caused or where there is an imminent threat of pollution to the territorial waters of Sri Lanka or any other maritime zone that includes the foreshore as well as the 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. Due to any maritime casualty,
Dan, just to quickly set the baseline right here for the benefit of average group of people here and the experts have all put together. Now the next presenter will be talking about the environmental pollution aspect of the law. So you can stick to the maritime. What do we have and what?
That is what I have really, drafted my presentation to cover those areas. And I will not be going to what Ravi will be discussing on. So I'll be basically showing the area more important and more relevant. So the maritime, the authority may direct the owner of the ship, the charter of the ship, or any other person in possession of the ship, the master of the ship, any salvor in possession, any other person generally authorized by the authority to take such urgent and immediate measures in respect of the ship or its cargo, or any oil which is not here important on board the ship as may be necessary to prevent, mitigate, or eliminate such pollution or threat of such pollution. Why I have underlined that is that we are discussing about the ship and its cargo in its real sense, and this is actually the key that the MIPA has to operate within section 24. Then section 62 of the MIPA, the MPPA, defines what is pollution, and in the direct or indirect alteration of the physical, thermal, chemical, biological, or radioactive properties of any part of marine environment by the discharge, emission, or the deposit of waste, including introduction by man, directly or indirectly, of any substance or energy into marine life so as to effect any beneficial use adversely or to cause a condition which is hazardous to public health, safety or welfare of the animals, birds, wildlife, aquatic life, or to plants of every description or hindrance to marine activity, including fishing and other legitimate uses of the sea and impairment of
excuse me, Dan.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Dan. I would appreciate if you simply take the essence of it and convert it into layman's terms.
I will, because I'm showing these things actually to show the gap that exists in our law. So what it means as pollutant also interpreted in section 61. So let me go to the next slide, which is on the liability and compensation. There it says the main section says that the pollution damage has occurred to either to the territorial waters or to the foreshore or to the other maritime zones, including the 200 nautical mile zone. The owner, where such a pollution has occurred due to discharge, escape, or dumping, and with now taking into consideration of the Express Pearl, the harmful substances or other pollutant, and this may cover also the cost of any measures that have been taken. So the liability and the compensation should be focused on those areas. And what are we going to get out of the compensation package? That is to the damage and the damage or loss that have occurred to the marine, coastal, port, estuarine activities, including the fisheries activities. Then the promotion of tourism and preservation development of tourist attractions. Then the health of coastal population and well-being. Then the protection and conservation of living marine resources. Because these are the 4 areas that we are going to obtain the compensation for this incident. And the discharge has been defined in section 62, whereas harmful substances defined in section 62. Here I am especially focusing on is that, we are not a party to the Hazardous and Noxious Convention, Substance Convention. We only have the enabling statutory legislation, which is the Marine Pollution Prevention Act, that is more based on the CLC Convention or the Convention on Civil Liability for Oil Pollution Damage 1992 and the Fund Convention. So we really lack provisions with regard to Hazardous and Noxious Substances Convention, whereas you can see that its Article 7 defines that or imposes liability on the owner at the time of incident shall be liable for damage caused by any hazardous and noxious substances in connection with their carriage by sea on board. Then what are the damages and types of damages that are covered, like from A, B, C, D, all these things are being covered, but our law lacks these things because we have not taken the international convention in our enabling legislation, which is the NPPA. And also it goes on to state what is hazardous and noxious substance, and then damage and preventive measures and so forth. So prevailing law in Sri Lanka, then I would like to go now to the next one. We are now having the wreck. And how are we going to deal with the wreck, right? So this is what we are now trying to figure out. How we are going to deal with the wreck. And that is very importantly that the Merchant Shipping Act covers. There are any wreck found in Sri Lanka, be there in our waters. The Director General of Merchant Shipping shall be the principal receiver of the wrecks. Because a lot of people are asking now, can this wreck be owned by the previous owner? Or do we have any right or title to this wreck and so forth? That is why I thought that I should deal with this now, because it's a post-incident scenario. Then it is under the DGMS. He can appoint a principal receiver to receive the wreck and shall give direction, who will give direction and supervision of all the matters relating to the receiving of the wreck and the salvage of the wreck. And also how to collect the payments, whatever that is incurred for the salvaging of the wreck, and then obtaining of the money and so forth. So our Merchant Shipping Act also lacks a lot of important provisions with regard to the dealing of the wreck. Because if you look at the statutory gap in the Wreck Removal Convention, you will see that there are so many important provisions that have been covered there. But since this is my last slide, I will just go through it very carefully, because this will give more insight into what we really can include in our law. The registered owner shall remove the wreck determined to constitute a hazard, because this is now blocked in our navigable waters in Colombo. So the registered owner shall be liable for the cost of locating, marking, and removing the wreck. And also now, since Singapore is the registered owner's flagship, so the state party shall require the master operator of the ship flying its flag to report to the affected state, Sri Lanka, without delay, when the ship that has been involved in a maritime casualty resulting in a wreck. So likewise, there are so many things that we can bring in here in our law. Now let me, out of my slides, I would like to stress on the fact that at a post-incident situation, we need to look at the documents that have been carried on board these vessels. These are the more important things when it comes to litigation. We have to look at whether the documents really cover the pollution coverage, the wreck removal coverage, then all the other areas like the hull and the machinery insurances, because whatever I see with our present enabling legislation would provide, we will have to rely upon the insurance covers, because as I always say that our legislations are not of covering of a plethora of things that we can really obtain likewise in the international conventions, because we lack so many things in our national legislations. We have been telling to update it, but never had happened. But now we can't go back. We have to stay on and go from here onwards. We have the P&I cover. We need to look at the P&I covers. We need to see whether the documents really comply with the necessary requirements that are up to date. Because if there are certain discrepancies, if there are certain loopholes or whatever that are shortcoming, then we will have a situation facing legally what we call that there is a ship that have come to the Sri Lankan waters, not only that it was unseaworthy, but it was also substandard ship. You know, we cannot the proper documentary evidence to see that in the part of litigation or in the part of finding the insurance policies, whether these are proper. Because as far as I know that the ship has been registered in the name of some other entity. It is not in the name of the express feeders. It's in some other entity's name. This vessel is registered. So in that case, we have to see, because Express Pearl or the express feeders is only the operator as per the documents. So we need to find out with all the other documents whether this ship has fulfilled the standards that are required under the relevant conventions like SOLAS, MARPOL, and all these things, the wreck removal convention, the bunker convention, all these things, whether we can find the implementation of the proper port state control, and of course the post-incident compensation regime. So these are the things that we need to now handle through the respective compensation teams that have been formed, and try to obtain the maximum what we can obtain. And also on the other hand, since it's a Singapore flagship, we can obtain many compliances from the Singapore flag state if they if the ship had been violating certain flagship requirements, and thereby seeking remedies from the Singapore flag as a kind of a gap filler to whatever the compensation that we may not be able to obtain, considering the mammoth damage or loss that may have happened to our maritime waters and marine environment. So with that, I think I will end my presentation. I hope that I have finished within time.
Yes.
We can take up any questions in the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much. You were very professional. You were on time. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And you got to the point that we all wanted you to get to. Since we are running out of time very much, the time is now almost 5:30. Actually, to be exact, 5:30. We have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. So I will immediately go to the last presenter. That will be another attorney at law. And he will be talking about the environmental law related matters, because we hear every day So many turtles have been dead, fish have been dead, no seafaring for the fishermen. People are not eating fish, they are scared of it, and the tourism industry is impacted long run and various other things. In fact, I heard 2 weeks ago on TV, one very senior cabinet minister, without naming the names, saying that compensation environmental damage. So with that little note from public TV, let me introduce you to the last presenter, and he's an attorney at law, former legal officer to the Ministry of Justice and unofficial magistrate, chairman of the Center for Environmental Justice, president of Sri Lanka Environmental Lawyers Association, and chairman of Friends of the Earth Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the attorney at law, Ravindranath Dabri. Ravindranath, over to you, sir. 15 minutes you got.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction and the opportunity afforded to me to make a presentation of my views related to this catastrophe. And of course, give me a minute to share the document.
I will let you know, Ravindranath, when it comes up. It's coming up, Ravindranath.
Thank you.
We can see your screen now.
Right. Actually, I have to limit my presentation to the given time. Therefore, I will briefly go through what has been prepared. There are a number of laws under which this issue has to be handled, but the provisions under Marine Pollution Prevention Act and the Merchant Shipping Act were discussed by my previous speaker, Dr. Malika. And there are some other laws also we can utilize in this issue. Ports Authority Act, Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act, Coast Conservation and Coastal Resource Management Act, National Environment Act, Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance, and the Penal Code. Especially Marine Pollution Prevention Act relevant sections, especially in relation to pollution, there is a civil liability clause under section 34. When there is a pollution, the damage can be obtained by litigation by using section 34 of the Marine Pollution Prevention Act. But there are some limitations under section 35. But this limitation is only with regard to the pollution damage caused by the oil spillages. Therefore, most of the legal experts are of the view these limitations would not apply when there is a issue related to the chemicals and the hazardous materials. And even the power to arrest and various other powers are also found in the Marine Pollution Prevention Act. And Merchant Shipping Act also, there are important provisions, especially as stated by Dr. Malika, section 205 is very important. When unseaworthy ship is sent to a country, it is an offense, or especially to Sri Lanka, it is an offense under the Merchant Shipping Act of our country. Therefore, even we can deal under section 205 of the Merchant Shipping Act.
And there are various other sections applicable under this that act also. Even Ports Authority, under the Ports Authority, there are provisions, and especially, the post of Harbour Master is actually a post under the Ports Authority, although he is exercising some powers delegated under the Merchant Shipping Act. And I will quickly move on to the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act, especially an act or piece of legislation which is not discussed in detail under this issue, especially under Section 27 of the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act. If any person damage or use or attempt to use any poisonous, explosive, or substances or other noxious or harmful matter of substances in Sri Lanka waters for the purpose of poisoning, killing, stunning, or disabling any fish or other aquatic resources is an offense, right? Therefore, even carry or have in possession any poisonous, explosive, or type of substance, including dynamites and other noxious, harmful materials, those are actually categorized as offenses under the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act. Therefore, we can even explore the possibility of acting under the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act. Under the Coast Conservation and Coastal Resource Management Act also, there are some provisions, because according to the Sri Lankan laws, the coastal management is totally lies or vested to the Coast Conservation and Coastal Resource Management Act. Under that, there is a special post created, that is Director General of Coast Conservation. The coastal area of the country, of course, extend to 2 kilometers from the coastal line towards seaside and 300 meters towards land side. The total management and even the cleanliness of that area is the maintaining cleanliness is also a duty of the Director General of Coastal Department. And if any person is doing any harmful act to affect the coastal area, he can be dealt under the Coastal Conservation and Coastal Resource Management Act. Therefore, when the coastal area is polluted, we saw large pollution coast in the coastal area, even the nurdles and the actually certain plastic materials which have been burnt as a result of this disaster were collected on the seashore. Therefore, this is an offense cognizable under the Coastal Conservation Act. Under the National Environment Act also, there is a special offense, especially in relation to the pollution of the atmosphere. We are actually not much bothered of the atmospheric pollution, and all of us were discussing about the pollution and the damage caused to the marine life, but there was a severe damage caused on the atmosphere. We saw even from 9.5 nautical miles away, we saw the large fumes were emanating and collected to the atmosphere as a result of this. And under the Section 23J of the National Environment Act, atmospheric pollution is a offense, and 23K is also related section when the atmospheric pollution is committed. And fauna and flora protection ordinance is also very important, because we see a lot of turtles are dead. The turtles are protected species under the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance. Therefore, nobody is entitled to cause any damage on the turtles. And even there are some areas declared as marine reserves and marine national parks, especially the Marine National Park at Hikkadua and some coral reef, bay reef close to Putlam and Rumasala Marine Sanctuary. Those are the areas affected. And any offense committed under on these marine reserves and the marine national parks could be dealt under the Fauna and Flora Protection Order. In addition to that, these marine species are protected under the Fauna and Flora Protection Order. Therefore, any harmful act committed on these marine species also could be dealt under the Fauna and Flora Protection Order. And even the nuisance has been caused because when there is a threat to the human life, it is considered as a public nuisance. Even we can act under the public nuisance. Even there are some provisions under the penal code, especially section 273. If any any ship enters into the country and handles the poisonous matters irresponsibly, those are offenses, especially section 277 and 270. Those are offenses relating to the poisonous matters, negligently handling poisons. Those are also under the provisions existing under the Sri Lankan laws, especially under the penal code and the penal sanctions. And as I said earlier, the provisions under the Coast Conservation Act, those are provisions, and even for the offences, those are unbailable offences. But our government authorities, I didn't see so far acting under those provisions and to find out or find fault with the relevant authorities and the bodies who have committed the offense under these provisions.
Mr. Ravindranath, for your benefit. Mr. Ravindranath, 3 minutes or 4 minutes more. Thank you.
Yes, I will. Yeah. And even section 98 of the Criminal Procedure Code deals with the public nuisance. Anybody posing any imminent threat to the health of the public commits the offense of public nuisance, and orders could be obtained even from the magistrate court to prevent it and somehow or the other arrest the nuisance caused or any spread of nuisance. And even international treaties are there, but related to the hazardous chemicals, we have not signed any such convention. Therefore, we can't get the maximum benefit out of it. It is the duty of our government authorities to take immediate steps to sign and enter into those treaties which are important. And most importantly, the polluter pays principle is the most important thing. Even when the other laws are silent and other laws are not capable or not up to the standard, even we can use this principle in handling this issue, especially in obtaining the damages for the pollution caused. Because our Supreme Court has already accepted the polluter's pays principle, that simply is the polluter should take the responsibility of the damage caused as a result of the pollution. And even there are some case laws, even Vilpattu case, and which I was appearing, and the precautionary principles that is coming as a part of the Rio Declaration, Principle 15. Everybody who is acting without taking the required precaution commits an offense. Therefore, if anybody has failed to take the required precaution, if as a result of the failure, if any damage has caused, he should be made responsible. Those are the important points that I want to emphasize at this stage. Thank you for affording this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravindranath Dabre. You are right on time, and it was very useful to all of us, especially to me, to understand in simple terms what legal courses we have in terms of environmental pollution damage claims.
Most
Ladies
of
and
the
gentlemen,
lawyers are up to the time.
Yes, that should be, because you are very expensive. Not today, but normally. Thank you, Ravindranath. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Now the time is exactly 5:45. Not bad. We finally managed to finish it at 5:45. Some took, some gave. That's the spirit of a team. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a hard stop at 6 o'clock, but because you would be having some questions to ask, this is how we are going to do it. This session will be extended to 6:15, but I will stop Q&A session at 6:10 because 5 minutes has to be given to the General Secretary of the OPA to give a vote of thanks. So we have 25 minutes. The chat box has been open now. If you ask long questions, I will not take them up. If you ask a very short one-time question, I will take them up. So start typing your questions in the chat box. I will take them up. I'm looking at chat box as we go, but don't start ask pertinent questions. Let me go to the chat box. Just bear with me. Now, if you all start typing a lot of questions, every question will go up and no one will be able to get an answer. So please stay put. Let the others ask the question. If the question they ask is not your question, then you can ask it. Because already 5 questions have been put in, I can only see the last one. Otherwise, this won't work. Let me ask a very basic one to break the ice. This can be local investigation takes to finish. How long will it take to finish the investigation? Maybe Mr. Dabre from the legal point and maybe Captain Ranjit from the shipper's side or the marine side. Now, Mr. Dabre, for your first answer. Unmute yourself and speak up, please. Mr. Dabre, are you there?
I got a call. I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
Ranjit, you won't take that.
Hello? Hello, can you repeat the question? Hello? Hello?
Hello, so on behalf of our moderator, I think he's experiencing a power cut there. So can I? I'm sorry, I had to go by what is there in the chat box. I have this question. I think that question will put it to Mr. Dabre by Arjuna later. But I have this question to Captain Ranjit. The question is, the lawyer who represented the ship said at the court that Sri Lanka delayed taking action on fire to claim damages. Can you please comment on this? Also, there's a second question. Who is responsible for deciding the method of firefighting? So both questions I want to put it to Captain Ranjit.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, Mr. Ranjit.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Ruchira. I think the first question, if the Sri Lankan authorities delayed this one. No, I don't think there is any truth in that because nobody would want to delay such actions, not only to, you fight a fire, not only to save the vessel, you fight a fire as far as we are concerned to save our environment. So therefore, that is not right. As you can see, our failure to fight the fire resulted in a disaster for the environment as well. So therefore, nobody would want to do that. So therefore, any claim of delaying is absolutely baseless. Thank you on that.
You also may answer to the second question. I don't know whether you are the, but
Okay.
these both questions have been posed to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain.
Yeah, what is the other one?
Second question is, who is responsible for deciding the method of firefighting?
Exactly. Now, when there's a fire on board the ship, actually master should decide what to do. But at a time when outside help is sought, there again, he had to specifically say, I need this help, because he's the one who knows well what would be the best method of fighting the fire. If it has used up the CO2, like I said, then you should have ordered more CO2. Otherwise, you would have told the party coming to fight the fire, can you bring some CO2 or can you bring a CO2 foam system or anything? So he had the best opportunity of detailing the people who are coming to help to bring whatever is required. Otherwise, the party who is going there also has the responsibility to know this is the type of fire, this is how we have to fight. So we have to be armed with available resources. That goes in both ways.
Thank you, Captain Veerasinghe. I have this question for, I think, Dr. Dan Malika could answer to this question. Or will there be any chance to pay compensation to the ship from Sri Lanka? There would be strong arguments from the ship insurance for international negligence, as there were apparent intentions from Sri Lanka side to get compensation. So I don't want to go into more detail.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Ruchira, I understood. Now let me answer it like this, because at the moment we cannot say who's at fault or whether there has been any negligence on the part of Sri Lankan authorities, what we call the contributing negligence or so forth. Just the law is that, when there is a liability that can be imposed on the polluter, then the polluter can pass the ball to say that the matter was not handled properly. If that is so, then there is contributing negligence passed on the authorities that took certain measures. So in that case, what will be deducted is against the limitation, or rather the amount of liability, what we call under contributing negligence. So under that, then I also saw a question that if there is a kind of a willful act to do such a thing, then what will happen? Now, even in that case, then the ship owner's right to limit will be lost in such a case. So both these matters come in the case of limitation of liability, but let me conclude by saying liability rests on the polluter. If the polluter says that, and if the polluter, he has to prove, not say, but he has to prove. If he proves that there is some kind of contributory negligence on the part of the national authorities here, then his liability will be deducted to a certain amount that such a thing can be established.
Thank you, Dr. Dan Malika. I have this question either for Captain Veerasinghe or Captain Semasinghe. What recourse is available for a consignee who had a personal cargo on board? I think Captain Semasinghe or Captain Veerasinghe can answer to that. Thank you.
If you wish.
Hello?
Hello, if you wish I can answer, but
yes, please.
I think it's more to do with the law. I suppose Dr. Dan Malik is the right person to answer, but I can tell you in a situation like that, there is an insurance payment that has to come from, as far as the cargo, because the general average is declared, and whether it should come from general average or from the cargo owner's insurance, I think Dr. Dan should be able to tell better.
Yes, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Captain. I will answer. Actually, what happens here is that the Captain Veerasinghe mentioned that general average has been declared, but now the general average does not come into play because the owner has declared a total loss of the ship. So when there is a total loss of the ship, no general average can be declared thereafter. So that is out. Now the question here is whether the consignee can obtain a certain damage or compensation. The law is that if there is a kind of insurance, yes, he can recourse to the insurance. But if it's not, then we have to look at the bill of lading. Well, who has issued the bill of lading? Whether it's the NDOCC carrier or whether it's the ship itself that has issued. So if it is the NDOCC carrier, letter of demand should be primarily sent to the NDOCC carrier. And there also, if the goods have been shipped in Dubai, in that case, under the carriage of goods by sea law, there is no unseaworthiness in Dubai. But if the goods have been loaded in Qatar, then there they can bring up the unseaworthiness of the ship. For cargo unseaworthiness that can be raised. So letter of demand has to be sent. So depending on the circumstance, the legal argument will have to be changed and taken forthwith, right? Then if it is against the vessel, then against the vessel P&I Club, you have to send the letter of demand. Thank you very much.
Then once again, this question directly to Dr. Dan Malika. Thank you. Where can the public request to obtain copies of documents such as hull insurance policy, P&I insurance, etc.?
Okay, thank you very much. I think Ravindra also can answer this, Ravi, because already Ravi has filed a public interest litigation. Now he has a right also to go under the Right to Information Act, RTI, to obtain copies of these documents from the DG, because all these documents should be with the DG by right now. So all these documents can be obtained from the Director General of Merchant Shipping under the RTI, the Right to Information Act, and Ravi, as a petitioner counsel for the in the public interest litigation, can obtain these copies, and this is how I think he also obtained copies of the cargo list. So I think Ravi can answer this question.
Ms. Dabare, over to you, Ms.
Yes,
Dabare.
actually, we can obtain the required document from the DG Merchant Shipping or from the Marine Environmental Marine Environmental Protection Authority. We have already made an application from both these entities to obtain such documents.
Yes, thank you. I think I also had this question for either Captain Semasinghe, Captain Veerasinghe. Had the authorities given the exact order of loaded chemicals? I think it's a technical question. I think one of you all can answer.
Can I answer?
Yes, please, Captain Veerasinghe.
What really has happened since the exact order of cargo is not in public domain for the simple reason, since there's a court case going on, we also would like to see actual cargo storage plan and the manifest of the vessel, and we so far not been able to do because authorities have it. Ports Authority has it. Director General Merchant Shipping has the port state has it. But due to reasons of official duties, I think they are at the moment not in a position to release that, because that should be public knowledge. But for whatever reason, it is not in public domain at the moment. Maybe under the Information Act, you may be able to get. Otherwise, they are not going to just release it as such.
Yeah, I have this question. Thank you. I have this question for Mrs. Dabare again. This law is applicable to willful acts for litigation. These are all not willful or negligent. So is the law still applicable?
We can't say that certain offenses are actually strict liability. Right. So now, if you see the bringing in unseaworthy goods to the country, whether it is willfully done or negligently done, it's a strict liability. It's an offense still connected with the strict liability. Therefore, whether the negligence or the mens rea or the mental element, the intention is not required in certain issues. Now, even the pollution issue, the causing pollution, whether it has been done willfully or whether negligently, is not a material, but the pollution caused. Now, even in a number of cases, even in Chunnakam case, in the Supreme, where the Supreme Court has upheld this principle, that is not material. The pollution has caused. Therefore, the polluter should take the responsibility. Certain issues, the intention is not required, or whether it is negligently done or not is not required.
Okay, thank you. And I had this question for again, to Captain Semasinghe, Captain Veer Singh, or even Engineer Saman Kumar Singh, role of the inspection team, and who reviewed it, who reviews it after receiving the information from the team, or rather who reviewed it. Over to you all, please. From the company of Master Marines, the experts. So one of you all can answer, please.
As far as,
Hello.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Ruchira, now the vessel actually is under the authority of the flag Singapore. So vessel authority lies with the flag Singapore. So when such investigations are to be done, the lead role has to be taken from the Singapore flag authority. Of course, the fact that it has happened in our waters, the Director General of Merchant Shipping has to support the investigation as a supporting role. Okay. So it is the Singapore flag that should take the lead, and the Director General of Merchant Shipping, in his purview, because it is happening in our waters, he has to act under his all the powers that he has to support the investigate. And if he feels that the investigation is required on his part, he may also start the investigation depending on all the details that he has. Normally, the member states will cooperate. If you ask all these documents, what is required from the Singapore, they are actually supporting Sri Lankan administration to provide whatever the documents is requested by the Director General of Merchant Shipping.
If I may add, yes. What the question is basically, after the inspection of the thing, who reviewed that decision. So I think that this is where the problem is. Since we do not have by law a system to inspect or send a party to review in an emergency situation what's to be done. At this time, it was a ports authority who had done it, but actually in our law, it does not specify who should do it. That's the problem we have. That's where actually the main issue is. So in fact, this time, it was ports authority led team that went to inspect the vessel. So they are the people who would review it for the purpose of berthing the vessel or to send a firefighting party. So at this, in this particular event, it was a ports authority led team went, and it is up to the ports authority to decide what's to be done thereafter.
Okay.
General Secretary.
Yes, that's what. Mr. Moderator, do you want to take over and ask few questions?
You have done it terrifically well. I think you're doing fine. You can carry on. I just want to hand over and thank you for doing this. I just managed to come back. So let me do this. Should start your video. Okay, let me start my video, and I'll take it over because I want to hand it over to you properly, with respect. You have been terrific, General Secretary. So let me take let me carry it on from here until about 6:10. Okay. I'll do this for
Sure,
you.
sure.
Thank you very much. Let me see what's on the chat box. You did fantastic. Right, I'll do that. Just a second. There's a question on the chat box. Oh, it's a thank you note. I have a one question to on benefit of the all. I will ask this question from Sampath, actually, Captain Sampath. Now and Saman. Now the first smoke came from the cargo hold number 2. So it came from the underneath the ship deck, and the fire also started in that place in second day. So what is the possibility of dousing that fire? Is this question been answered before or not? If it's not answered, please answer this question, because the cargo, the smoke and the fire took place in the cargo hold.
I think in the yeah.
Saman or Sampath?
Yeah, Mr. Saman will
Can't hear you.
also add the.
Yeah, Arjuna, I will take that question now.
Right.
Let me explain. The container contains nitric acid, and nitric acid itself, it's not explosive. It is corrosive and toxic. We call it metal-eating acid. So if you open a highly concentrated nitric acid can, we call it a fuming acid. It will fume. It can be white fume or yellow fume. So what happens, the nitric acid container which started leaking was on the cargo hold top. So when the nitric acid spills out, the cargo hatch pontoon covers that I showed you in my presentation, they are sealed with a rubber joint or rubber seal. So when you put nitric acid into this rubber seal, it will melt like no time. And then what happens? The nitric acid finds its way into the cargo hold. But it is a well-known fact, when the nitric acid gets in contact with the other explosive material, combustible material, it becomes explosive, right? So when the crew detected this one, because there is a system on board fitted, when the captain or any other officer who detects the alarm, then they have to make a decision whether to flood the cargo hold with the CO2 or not, depending on the seriousness of the fire, which they normally have access through the passage that I showed you, or they can feel and decide at the moment that the CO2 flooding is necessary. But the properties of CO2 is such, it does not have a cooling effect. It smothers the fire with forming a blanket over the fire and cutting down oxygen or reducing oxygen in the atmosphere. Normally, the ship is fitted with a CO2 flooding system to suit the largest space on the ship. So if it is the largest space, the cargo hold, then the CO2, the stock of CO2 carried on the ship is enough to flood into that cargo hold and have a concentration of more than 40%. So the concentration of oxygen is reduced, or the fire is not supported anymore. But in this case, you need to have a complete seal of the compartment for the CO2 to be effective. When the seals are burnt and when they initially flood the CO2, what happens? The CO2 is heavier than air. Then it's find its way down, and whatever the fire which was there will be smothered. But when the fire ignites, flooding the remaining CO2 may not be effective, because and it leaks out from the cross joints or the sides of the hatch cover. When the cross joint seals are burned, it opens out a gap of about 50 millimeters. So it's a big gap, and it is across the pontoon cover. It's not just one place, 2-3 inches. No, it will from one end to the other end. So when the CO2, because the CO2.
Engineer Saman, I think
Yeah.
you are into very minute details at this stage, so this is good enough. Basically, we understand the explanation you are given. The General Secretary, thank you, Saman. Thank you, Saman.
Yeah, okay.
General Secretary Ruchira, you may go ahead and finish those 3 questions, please, and we will take the last 3 questions and wrap it up. Call
Yes,
it a day.
thank you, Arjuna. So yes, this question is to Dr. Malika. Since Sri Lanka has not ratified HNC convention and CLC is not applicable as there is no oil pollution, all compensation goes directly to the owners. So however, Express Pearl registered owner is having only that vessel as the asset, and it is a total loss now. So if the registered owner has no assets or capability to pay the compensation demanded by Sri Lankan government, what options available?
Thank you very much for asking that. It's actually I said, since it is registered in a very, very strange type of a name, so we do not know whether this particular company is owned by the consortium of express feeders. So if that is so, then the express feeders as a consortium will be liable. But I'm very unsure about this, because normally what they do is, in shipping companies, they form a company for a particular ship. So one ship per company, so in that case, if that particular ship meets with a liability like this, then only that company's assets will be put to the meeting of the compensation. So in this case, that's what I said, we have to very carefully look at all the certificates, the hull, machinery, pollution, wreck removal, all these certificates, whether they are in order, because whatever we can get the compensation would be by way of the P&I insurance. So we have to get the maximum out of that in line with the certificates. So we have to make sure that the ship was not substandard in terms of the certificate. So we have to check and get all the things there. If not, I don't think that we would be able to go beyond the company that is under whom that the ship is registered. Thank you.
Dr. Malika, can you also take this question, please? Can you please explain whether the NVOCC operators or freight forwarders could be held liable?
That is why in my earlier answer also I mentioned that it depends on case-by-case basis. Suppose that the NVOCC carriage was taken over in Jebel Ali in Dubai, then of course it's very difficult to put the blame, because the ship was not unseaworthy at that point. But if it was in Qatar, yes, you can definitely put that against the NVOCC carrier. So there is no problem. So we have to see there, in case that the goods were put on board Jebel Ali, then I don't think that you would be able to get the damage, except the under the bill of lading. There is a clause of under the bill of lading for any damage caused, but then you have to get a force majeure situation, right? The ship owner, if the ship owner comes with a force majeure situation, then that will be difficult. So we have to look at this particular question with the circumstances that have taken place, like whether the NVOCC carrier took charge of the cargo in Dubai, Jebel Ali, or in Qatar. Anything taken from Qatar, of course, yes, you can take this case against unseaworthiness. In Jebel Ali, of course, then it's a very difficult thing that we need to go through the BL to see what are the other terms that are included in the BL, because BL is the most important document there.
The General Secretary, Ruchira.
Yes.
Please make the last question. You ask the last question, then I will wrap it up and hand it over to you. I think that we should do that.
Okay.
Because otherwise this will never end.
I have no problem, but I think they are almost the same like some of the questions, as they have a specific question posed to our eminent speakers. I thought we will. So if you wish, we can.
Just ask
One
You
more
asked your
question.
next question.
No, one more question. I think what is the definition for seaworthiness? Slight leak from a container would not make a ship unseaworthy. So they want that comment. I think from the company of Master Mariners, the experts can give an answer.
No, the leakage of container will not make the ship unseaworthy, for sure. That is very straightforward. Unseaworthiness is very much far away from that. I think Mr. Kumarasinghe can add some more for the unseaworthiness.
Yeah, most people think unseaworthy ship is when some equipment is broken down, the ship become unseaworthy. No, ship is seaworthy in terms of its equipment, its structure, the cargo it carries, and the people on board, how qualified they are, how competent they are. So if there is a serious lacking on behalf of any of this one, you may call it unseaworthiness. And you have to understand there is a difference between the substandard vessel and unseaworthy vessel. Substandard vessel can still be seaworthy in terms of what you will find. So that is the small definition I can give you.
General Secretary Ruchira, I will.
Yeah, I think you can. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it's a wrap up. I would like to thank all of you who participated. There are about at one point there were about 200 plus people participating, and they were all here. I think right now also there are about 190 some people are there. So you were very attentive. You followed the rules and regulations of the moderators. Thank you very much. As a result of that, we got some very good input. In fact, I have been to many sessions like this. I have never seen a sessions like this where the things were very specific, whether it is the law side or whether it is the engineering side or whether it is the seafarer side. It was very, very specific. In summary, what I would like to sum it up and say that is the data that was there was visible to everybody. There was no question about that, because today the ports and the ships are using electronic data interchange according to Chief Officer Captain Sampath. So therefore the information was available to everybody. Then the next thing that we saw was how the fire and the smoke was handled. There are a lot of questions to be asked. In fact, I can keep on asking a lot of questions myself, which I don't want to do. Number three, when it comes to the law that covers us for the compensation, as one of our forum members, Professor Piris mentioned, it's a long way from the home. We need to figure out how to do things a little faster in terms of, while we are getting the new laws enacted, with the existing laws, how to get the compensation. So this is the summary of it, because the President Janta will ask someone to do a summary document. So that's the summary of it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, panel members, Sampath, Captain Sampath, Captain Ranjit, Engineer Saman, lawyers Dan and Dr. Dan, and then of course my friend Mr. Dabre, and inimitable Ruchira Gunasekara, our General Secretary, who took over immediately. We were a team. Ruchira, fantastic takeover from me. It's like Olympic runners running without any hitch. So thank you very much for that. With all that, I will hand over to the session now to the General Secretary of the OPA, with the lawyer, attorney at law, Ruchira Gunasekara. Ruchira, over to you. Thank you very much, Ruchira, for what you did.
Thank you, Arjuna. Eminent panelists, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka and Company of Master Mariners of Sri Lanka, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to those who have directly and indirectly contributed in organizing this webinar. At the outset, I thank our eminent panelists from Company of Master Mariners of Sri Lanka, Captain I.S. Hemasinghe and Captain Ranjit Veerasinghe, Engineer Saman Kumarasinghe, former President of Society of Chief Engineers Marine, Dr. Dan Malika Gunasekara, Attorney at Law, former Executive Director, Ceylon Shipping Corporation, and Mr. Ravindranath Dabre, Attorney at Law and Chairman of the Center for Environmental Justice, for their participation despite of their very busy schedules, and for sharing their valuable knowledge and insights with us and enlightening us on this very important national issue. I thank my colleague, Engineer Arjuna Manamperi, Vice President of and also Chairman of the National Issues Committee of the OPA, for his contribution as a moderator this evening. My sincere thanks to Captain Mahendra Ranatunga, President, and Captain Upul Piris, Secretary of Company of Master Mariners of Sri Lanka, for their support in organizing this webinar jointly with OPA. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not thank Engineer Nisanka Pereira, past President of the OPA. He initiated this discussion on behalf of the OPA, and we are thankful to him for his contribution and guidance in making this webinar a reality and a success. I would like to thank the President, Engineer Shanta Senrat, also President-elect Mr. Dulita Pereira, Treasurer Mr. Bandula Gamarachi, office bearers, past presidents, chairman and chairperson of the standing committees, members of the Executive Council and the General Forum of the OPA for their advice and guidance. Our heartfelt thanks to our audience for their active participation and of course for their patience. Thank you very much. You really made this webinar a great success. Thank you very much. I appreciate the assistance given by the OPA secretarial staff headed by Mr. D.N. Seneviratne in organizing this webinar. I wish to extend my gratitude to all others who supported us in numerous ways. I thank you all once again and wish you all a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Ruchira. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruchira.
Thank you, Saman. Thank you,